Get ready for Unriveted Radio on Super Talk 1270. Now, here's Travis Feist and Rob McLeod.
Welcome back to another episode of Dakota Customs Unriveted. I'm your host, Travis Feist, owner-operator of Dakota Customs, and with me, as always, is Rob McLeod.
Always a pleasure to be here. Good morning, guys.
Morning, Rob. So, today's episode, we're going to be talking to Jesse Peterson. He is highly involved with our dealerships here in town, and we're going to be visiting with him today on inflation, trying to get parts, the involvement with the EVs coming out. So we're going to be picking his brain on that, getting some feedback and how it's affecting, good or bad.
Pretty relatable and
I think
dynamic conversation.
Yeah, I think so. But before we get into that, shop. Busy. Real busy.
I feel like it's the most manageable busy, though, that where we've been. It's not just, walking into fire every day. It's more or less, it's like, okay, we all know our direction for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and we know what's coming in. We know what needs to get done, so it's a good manageable busy. Mm-hmm. It hasn't got any less busy, but I feel like things have slowed down.
Just with that kind of topic about being busy, I mean, even our marketing person got pulled over today for speeding because she's got, I guess, a heavy lead foot. So I guess we're all busy. Some of us
going the speed limit, Amy, is like having a clean desk. It kind of eliminates, unnecessary busyness. So
True.
If you get pulled over speeding, you're late. Well, now you're more busy because you're even more behind.
Yeah, so nobody likes that.
It's a clean desk deal.
Being late.
Really, if people are dirty.
Yeah. Well,
we're not artists.
Moving on. So, anyways, yeah, we. Like I said, we do have a lot going on right now. It's cooling off, so the bikes are kind of slowing down a little bit, which...
They're actually getting faster, essentially.
Well, I'm saying the work is getting...
Okay.
Not the actual bikes, but the work is getting... it's slowing down a little bit, so which is nice. Kind of take a breather from that, but we still have a lot of bike stuff going on, which is good. I appreciate everything that comes through our door. So
definitely.
But yeah, car stuff, kind of getting, and that's what we're going to lead into today with Jesse is, whole car industry, as you can see, like everything, it's like a fad. Everything changes. Right now, muscle cars, classics, restoration, I mean, that's huge right now. And what do you think, Jesse? Actually, thanks for being on our show today, taking the time out and coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Tell us about you, how you got in, because I know you're actually been in the industry for years and years and years. So you just didn't walk into this. You've actually been a part of this for most of your life, correct?
That's right. I started in 1992 when I was 12 years old. I'm 43 now. I started washing cars at my dad's Ford dealership in Monticello, Minnesota. Fast forward, I moved to Bismarck in Mandan in 2005. I started selling cars at ID Ford then, and then as the years progressed, I moved through management, things like that there, and then of course we've added dealerships since then. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would have to say I have some experience in the business, and yeah, it's been a part of my life for my whole life, really.
And, you just didn't come into selling, managing, and owning a dealership. Like you actually started at the bottom.
The ins and outs, what it takes.
Yeah. Of everything throughout that.
And that's what makes a good leader, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. I do feel my dad and my grandfather both had, they thought about it the right way, that if I was going to get involved and if I wanted to have a future in it, that's how I would need to start out. So, my kids are coming to the age where, or one of them is anyway, where he may want to work in the dealership at some point, and he'll do it the same way I did, because I felt like that was very helpful to me in my career.
That, like Rob was saying, that makes you even more of a successful business owner, because you've been in everybody's shoes. You've taught yourself. You know all the ins and outs all the way up. So I mean, that's like hats off to you on that deal.
Thank you. Yeah, you have to be able to do it in business. Like you have to yourself be able to do it if you're going to be the guy at the top.
I believe, yeah.
I think
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. When 2020 started, it was weird. We had a almost too much inventory. The manufacturers had like banks of inventory that were piled up across the country. I mean, millions of unsold vehicles to dealers that they had produced and couldn't sell to dealers. And so that's how 2020 started. And when you think about the stark contrast from that to today, we were overloaded with inventory, I guess, almost 3 years ago now. And it very quickly changed once COVID hit. Supply chains are there was a lot of reasons for it. COVID was the biggest driver of it, but now it's just incredibly different with, we have 2 Ford dealerships, and between the 2 of them, we might have 10 new Fords for sale, whereas it would have been 400 3 years ago between the 2. And so that's a very big difference, and it's obviously changed the pricing and all of that stuff. When you take supply away from something, take 90% of the supply away and see what happens to prices. I mean, it's crazy.
Right,
and demand goes up during that same time.
Supply and demand, yep.
Yeah.
So are you still feeling the wrath of COVID? Because even like us in our industry, COVID was here in 19. This is 2022. We're going on 2023.
Yeah.
And we make phone calls,
feel it.
and it's still like you talk to manufacturers, and they're like, well, due to COVID, really we haven't moved on yet from that. Do you get the same?
I wouldn't call it. I know what you're saying. I wouldn't call it the wrath of COVID necessarily. I'm sure it was caused by that, but we're still not nearly up to speed with production with vehicles, which is really going to hurt us 2-3 years from now. When you think about, the sales are still down 20 to 30% over 3 years ago. Well, that's that much less vehicles in the market, that come back around as used vehicles. So that'll have an effect in even a couple of years. But it's crazy to me that we're still not up to speed yet. I don't understand why. They still haven't been clear on that. There's a lot of things. It's mostly microchip related, but it's other things too. It's all the ancillary suppliers that manufacturers use. Some of them went out of business because of COVID or whatever, and clearly the demand for the microchips is beyond just automotive. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't anticipate that years ago. I don't know if we were going to have this issue anyway or not. I don't think we were. But COVID certainly started getting the ball rolling, and it's still going.
Yeah, and I think everybody's still kind of feeling that wrath with the whole COVID. Because, like I said, I feel like
it's almost created a crutch for people to lean on. It's became a lame excuse for things. Where
I see that
I receive some bad information, and they just blame it on COVID. Is it really from COVID? It's hard to say.
Yep.
But
so it seems like it's the go-to excuse.
It's just people have just gotten so complacent due to it, and it makes everybody else's jobs harder.
So, and that kind of brings me. So you're still you are still dealing with the whole COVID thing. If it's 100%, 50%, 20%, however, but you're still dealing with that. Okay, well now, like you said, supply and demand's coming in. Well, you still got to sell stuff, so people are bringing in used inventory, which, it's a demand thing, so you jack up the price on the used inventory, and you're selling it because, again, this is the industry we're in. People are paying way more for used stuff than what it's probably actually worth in real dollar amount, because people still need vehicles, and there's not a lot of new ones to fill that demand, so people are spending good money on used. But at what point is that scale going to tilt the other way, and people are going to be, let's say 3-4 years from now, they come in and say, hey, I got this 2017 F350 that was used, and I paid well over market value for it, but now I want to trade it in. Well, now it's going the other way. Microchips are coming in. The new vehicles are starting to fill up the lot, and be like, well, now that vehicle that you paid for really isn't what it's worth because the demand is going the other way. What kind of hit is that you think that's going to take? I mean, we know it's going to come. I mean, we know. But it's like, who's... And sometimes I sit back and think, like, is it the bank that's going to be the one taking that hit? Because they're going to be upside down on that piece if they ever come in. Because, you know, when you trade a vehicle in, and if that's what you're getting offered, but you still owe money on it, well, you transfer over to this one. Well, now you're overpaying for this one. Well, then
you know if banks are losing money, they're going to jack up the interest rates, which is going to affect people to not buy expensive vehicles because they can't afford the interest rates. You know, it's I agree with you. It's my opinion, but I think there'll be a day of reckoning on that. And the used, keep in mind, used prices have gone up because, in my world, what I have to pay for one has gone up. Yeah.
But it was a weird phenomenon, and it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And if you were to look at any kind of index, so you can just Google used car price index or something like that, it happened in March of 2021 where it went up 20%. So a vehicle that you would have paid, just easy math, $10,000 for wholesale or retail, whatever, went up 20%, literally in a day. And the graph, shows this spike in value. The book values changed in April to reflect it. I've never seen that big of a jump in 1 month before. You would see first of all, used vehicle prices almost never go up over time; they go down.
Right.
And then it went up in the course of a day or two.
Quick and big time, yeah.
So our inventory value went up a huge amount by that amount, but also prices we had to pay. And I don't know why it was April of 21 or March of 21, but that's when that started significantly. To your point, yes, I think definitely there's a day of reckoning, and yes, banks are going to, those statistics of repossessions and those types of things they're already going up, to be honest with you. And we're going to see more of that for sure.
Well, it's just tough because it puts you as a dealer in a bad spot because you almost look at the bad guy. You almost look like the bad guy charging so much, but that's just the numbers you're stuck to work with.
I think my grandfather always told me that we just have to roll with the punches, and it ebbs and flows, and things go up and they go down, and you adapt.
Yeah.
And I think consumers mostly understand that because
they do. They've gone to it, so especially if they've been shopping around, they know if that's if that's a fair price or not. Yeah.
We the way not to get into how we do our business, but we because you're probably not interested in it, but we price our vehicles to the market, so they understand what the market is. Customers know that, and they're seeing it in all the other aspects of what they're purchasing, because they're not just buying cars right now. They're buying homes, they're buying appliances. People are buying everything, and they know prices are up everywhere.
Across the board.
Yeah, so it's, kind of gets me to that question of inflation. So it's just, it's not in the car world, like you said, it's everywhere. If you watch the news, you'll see it's everything that you purchase, and it's not even purchasing, it's even just our everyday living has gone up. So it's just nothing to do with well, you're the bad guy because you sold me an expensive car. No, it's the whole world has increased in everything that you do. Even, restaurants to supplies to food, everything is high. Your utilities, everything's gone up. So it's bad enough that, as a dealer, or, even everybody, you come into it and you first got to deal with COVID. It's like, okay, well, that really sucked. We're still feeling it. Then as we're trying to adapt and, we're trying to get that routine going down in effect, you got to change a lot of stuff because of the in and out, the inventory demand, the workforce, everything with COVID. Well, then here comes inflation. So now you're dealing with COVID. Now you're dealing with inflation on top of it. It makes everything really hard. It makes everything difficult. So it's bad enough that you're still trying to, adjust your dealership to everything that COVID is bringing you. But now on top of all that, then you have with the inflation, it's got to be hard.
Well, I guess I take a little different view on inflation. I obviously, like everyone else, I'm not happy with it, but I know what, a lot of it is the price of a vehicle, it plays a huge part in the overall inflation. And that's up, let's say, 40% in the last year and a half. The price of a vehicle up 40%, that's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot. statistically, it's almost impossible in that period of time, but it's happened. And the way I feel about it is once they do get production and things like that figured out, and the supply side gets more normalized and gets more stabilized, prices will come down significantly. Mm-hmm. Once you have more vehicles to choose from and more competition, it obviously that's a natural economic situation. And so I really think that it'll come down significantly once we get vehicle production back.
And I think it'll have to, because you got to think now. Let's just picture
people are just going to hold on to what they got.
Well, yeah,
they're not going to be so willing to buy that new vehicle. Because
there's really, I feel like, because there's really not a selection to choose from. But I remember a few months ago I seen a Facebook post, and I can't remember if it was Tesla or what dealership it was, but it showed like an area view, and there's just like thousands of these cars sitting there, and they're all waiting for like this one specific chip or whatever it is.
Yep.
And then it's like, hey, go. Then they all get shipped out. Well, that's what that dealership. Well, now just think, you got, Ford, you got Chevy, you got Chrysler, you got, Toyota, and all these other, and it's probably the same way at all these. Well, once all these parts start coming in, all these new vehicles, bam, go out to all these dealerships. They want that sold. They're not going to want to sit on house and you show up with 200 new vehicles in a month time, or I don't know how it works, but let's just say if you getting flooded with all these vehicles that you had ordered 2 years ago, or however it is that now they're really starting to get on the ball and starting to show up when you back to normal, for ordering. You're not going to sit on that inventory, so of course you have to bring your prices down to match, to get rid of that inventory, that hence hopefully will bring in, half of that will bring in probably used. I don't know what the turnover rate, but even 3/4 of that, well, like I said, that scale then is going to start going and even itself out, because now, like you said, it's demand and, it's supply and demand. So I do agree with you. I think in due time, like, it's never going to stay like this. It's not. It's impossible. It can't.
Right.
It can't. It's got to level itself out.
Yeah. Yes. So it'll happen. It'll happen a little more slowly than you might think. All that backlog of vehicles that you see, and there's all sorts of examples of that across the with different manufacturers. But what you maybe don't know is that all of that stuff is sold, pre-sold to customers.
Oh, sure.
So when it does hit, the reason you don't see our lots fill up, well, we get transports with vehicles on them all the time. They're all sold and they leave right away.
You just prep them for delivery. Yeah.
So those back orders will fill. We have 6 months worth of sold orders across all manufacturers to get filled. Those will get filled. And then, then you'll start to slowly see dealer lots climb with inventory, because the suppliers still won't totally be able to catch up. And even if they do, the factory lines won't be able to catch up to where they can just slam us all in one shot. So it'll happen over the course of time. I just hope, my big hope is that by the end of next year, things are 80% of normal. Is what my best case scenario for hope would be there.
So and here's one thing too, like, you almost don't even want the automakers to just try to fill these orders as quick. You still want them to produce a quality vehicle. So you don't want them to just knock vehicles out like they're making sandwiches, Like, they still need to produce, they need to put that Ford, Chevy, GM name on it and send a quality vehicle out the door.
Totally.
Because if they don't, well, that just creates even more headaches, because what's worse than having a returning vehicle, especially when it's sold new.
That's a big focus for all of them. I'm not too concerned about that, although, those things do happen.
Yep.
I mean, certainly, but we just deal with them when they do. But you're right.
Have you noticed the EV world, electric vehicles? What's your take on that? Is it a good? I know everybody wants to be green. Everybody wants to look for a future. I get it. I respect that. I do. I'm never going to take that away from somebody. But it's not the only thing we got going on in the world right now, is to make sure everybody owns an electric vehicle. But you, again, we see it on one side, you see it on a different. Is that the new hottest thing? I mean, people come in and they're like, I'm getting rid of my gas, I'm buying all electric. You get the diehards. Is it as big? Of course, we're not like California, but do you get people coming in and they're like, as soon as you get an EV vehicle, I'm in, call me, I'm switching my whole fleet over? I mean, is it like that?
Well, well, first of all, it is coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
There's no stopping it now. And the reason I say that is the manufacturers are all very, very, all of them that I can think of, all the ones we're involved with. We have Ford, even Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. I mean, to give you an example, Challenger and Charger are going all electric next year.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
That's just happening. I mean, and then, Kia is another one we have, but all the manufacturers are behind this and are full bore going forward. I'll give you an example. Ford Motor Company. This is all in the media now, so it's not a secret. Mm-hmm. But we had our national dealer meeting last week in Las Vegas, and basically they're giving us 3 options as dealers. They're saying the first is you can invest zero in electric, and that's no problem, but you won't be able to service them. You won't be able to sell anything going forward. The second option is basically we make a $500,000 investment and we can sell up to 25 electric vehicles per year. We can't have any inventory. They're all completed online through a reservation process. We can deliver them, and we have limited, I think we have to have one fast charger or something, one that charges it within 15 minutes or whatever, which is most of the $500,000 investment. And then the third option is a $1.2 million investment per dealership. So we have 2 dealerships, so yes, it would be per. And we'd have significant investment in EV chargers. We can service them. We'd have some inventory. They said some. They made that very clear. But then there wouldn't be a limit on how many we can sell. And so there's that, along with the fact that Ford has really broken down into 2 distinct divisions now. There's Ford, we call it Ford ICE, which is the internal combustion engine portion, which every dealer can sell. And then there's Ford Model E, which is their electric division. So that's just Ford, and they're all doing this. And I was just at the Kia National Dealer meeting a couple weeks ago. They have 4 EVs coming out, and they want us to invest significantly in this as well. And my view on it is we're going to do it. We're gonna go. I've got a lot of things running around in my mind right now. I've got to have it figured out in the next couple years, and we're going to. Do I personally believe it's a good thing? I mean, out here, I don't know how feasible it is out here.
Right.
But I'll tell you, somebody's going to figure it out, and the landscape here is going to look a lot different 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. It just is, because someone's going to figure out how to make money on this. But I always think we're going to sell gas engine vehicles out here. We're always going to have that here. You may not have it in California. You won't in 10 years from now. You won't. I mean, they won't. They'll be driving around, but they won't be sold. Right. It's illegal in 2030, I think. There.
Right.
So.
Well, see, and that's again where I kind of bring up that question, because your Ford dealerships, the 2 that you have here, you can't. And I don't know how to put it, but you can't compete with the Ford dealership in downtown Vegas or downtown California because the population. So for them to go to that meeting and they're like, we need to do this now because look where we live. But for you, it's like, but do we need to do it now? Or can we, or do we invest in 2-3 years? Eventually, you have to do it. You have to. If you want to be competitive and be able to still work on all the vehicles and still provide a service to your customers, you have to. But the difference is are you doing it today? Or are you, like you said, or is it that's your plan 3 years from now? Because I can't be over here because of our population, our demand. It's not the world that we live in. But it is something that you do have to.
To your point, the second we get a electric vehicle in or coming in, it's sold. So,
right there.
So when you do get because they have the F-150, I believe, that is out, right? Like that.
Yeah, the Lightning.
Out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I hate to say this, but man, it kills me every time. The Mustang. What, really?
The Mach-E, just the Mach-E.
Oh, is that? Okay.
Yeah. It's on a Mustang chassis. It looks kind of like a Mustang, but it looks kind of like a Mustang hatchback, if you will.
Why did they do that?
It's a symbolic thing.
Not to change the subject, but man, it kills me.
Well, the regular Mustang will always be a gas, I think it's to symbolize that the American muscle car
shifting
will be electric.
Can do this.
Yeah. But they should make it look like in a muscle car, not a grocery getter. You know what I mean? Come on. And I think there's a lot of people out there, even if you are a Mustang fan or not a Ford fan or whatever, but it's just kind of like, when you look at this, it's like, don't ruin what you have.
I think the bigger shocker is the Mopar.
Yeah.
I think that's even bigger because they're actually using the same vehicle styling but going full electric. It's just like, I feel like you got to do both. Yeah. Like, you got to have, I don't know, because there's no doubt that electric cars, they are hot rods, essentially. I mean, they can perform. Future. Yeah. It's just, like, I think that's a little bit more of a, I don't know, like.
With my question, like, so when you do get electric, is it the pickups? Is it, like, what car is it that is, like, your number one interest? I shouldn't say seller, but your interest. Like, people come in and they're like, we're interested in this one. Is it, like, obviously it's probably not the pickup.
We've been taking order. Yeah, the Lightning F-150's been big. We've been taking a lot of orders on that, and those are starting to come in. And we can't even fill all the orders we get. Like, we've got a back order on that for probably the next year and a half.
Wow.
What's been the feedback on those trucks? I'm just curious. Have people...
We've only delivered a few of them so far. They're just starting to trickle out.
A few rolling around town. It's like, okay, people are driving them, but...
Well, you have two options on that, and I think there's the 220-mile range battery, and then there's the extended, which is the 300-mile range. It's actually been harder to get the 300-mile range one.
People want it, yeah.
And now, if you got to tow a boat with that, it's not going to get 300 miles. If it's 20 degrees out, it's not going to get 300 miles. So we'll see. I think the jury's still out on that, how that's going to work. We have an all-electric Wrangler.
Okay,
that's been really hot. It's not all electric. It's
a hybrid.
It's got an electric motor.
We did one of those. Mm-hmm. Remember, Chris's?
Yeah, the blue one.
Yeah.
It's just like, he had a blue one that he took to the Mojave Desert and he lifted it, and we did a bunch of painting and accessories and stuff for it. But I guarantee you, I tell you you'd probably know who he is.
Yeah. You can run that on the gas engine, but then if you do run it on all electric, it'll make it like 22 miles. So we have a lot of employees that buy those, and they'll just use it back and forth going to work, and then they'll charge it while it's at the dealership while they're working.
That's slick, yeah.
Yeah, we have numerous people do that. So, it's and then on the Kia side, there's all sorts of, we don't have them yet, but they're coming. And we've got a number of charging stations that we have. Nobody uses them yet. I don't see a Tesla pulling up yet. Mm-hmm. And most of that is they just maybe don't know it's there. Although there is an app you can use as an electric vehicle. Yeah, that locates them for you.
You don't have to, especially up here, because, we're not like in a big major city where you got to know where your charging stations are when you drive.
You do.
Up here, especially in North Dakota.
Yep.
Because you want to make sure you get to one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think getting back to, because I think we're still so new with EVs, and getting back to with you where you're directing your dealerships to, you got a trend to the bigger industry. And I think the bigger side of the industry is electric vehicles. So you got to trend your dealerships to go along with that industry. So I think that's...
Yeah. Well, we want to be ready for both.
Yeah.
My hope is that we're still selling mostly gas engine vehicles long into the future, but we certainly need to be ready for electric. So we're going to make the investments, and we're going to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And since I moved here, I felt like when I moved to Bismarck, I was like, God, this place is like 3 years behind everybody else. Like,
absolutely.
When I moved here, like, songs that were cool where I lived before were
old,
or songs that were cool when I moved here were like, I was like, God, that was cool like 8 months ago. Like, you would just see things adapt slower here. Now that 3 years is shrunk considerably. I would say we're not behind at all now, but something like that I think will lag. But I want to be ready for it. And I don't think it's a just in case either. It's going to happen.
Yeah, right? It's going to happen.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it's just going to take slower to get us up to that level, but it's going to come.
I think all the vehicles are going to get better, and more people are going to, want to buy them.
Yeah.
Essentially. So.
Well, if you can, once it gets to the point where you can at least get to Fargo without having to charge, And then when you do have to charge, if you can do it in 15 minutes or less, just like a stop to the gas station, once it gets to that, then then electric will be off and running. And it's not too expensive. And I think that part will be taken care of by the production part of it as they're mass produced and we have plenty of availability. It's going to happen, and it might happen faster than we think.
I think so too. I think that the EV world's going to evolve faster than what we're probably going to be expecting.
I think it's off and running.
Yeah.
I've talked to gas station owners. I've got some that are friends, and there's two things that they're trying to diversify so that they're not so dependent upon gas. And the two things they're looking at that they've told me are charging stations and like alcohol sales, so they can have diversified sources of revenue. If they're not already doing that. But I mean, they can charge for the charging stations, charge customers for them, and they can monetize that.
And I think what I'm afraid of is people that are going to be, I wouldn't say biased against EV, but are still going to be like, no, I'm going to hang on to my gas-powered vehicle.
They're just not sold yet.
Yeah, I just hope that we don't get the wrath to be like, well, if you don't want to switch, we're going to just keep jacking up, fuel prices and everything else to force us to go on to buy EV just for that situation. But I look at it to where I feel like every EV that comes out and the more people that buy EVs make the classic muscle car industry just that much more valuable, because the more electric vehicles come out and people are going to want that engine roaring classic muscle car that's just going to be worth so much more money throughout the years. Even and I keep thinking it's funny, but Judge, what is it? I'm trying to think of what movie that with Stallone in it.
Judge Dredd,
I think it was, and they went down in this basement where all these people that weren't about the future, and there was that GTO down there with a gas motor, and everybody was like this is like the icon thing because it's like there's a gas hot rod muscle car down here, and I think like that's going to be us in 20 years, 30, who knows? Like when you see a gas powered muscle car, people are going to be like, wow, do you remember these? We used to drive these around. I think it's worth so much
We're even
money.
kind of at that point with like carbureted motors. We got into the world of fuel injection, and it's like you see someone run around on a carburetor, it's like, dang, that thing's running,
Yeah, it's a different world, but it just, again, every new thing that comes out will only value, for us in our industry, the classic muscle car thing. So, that'll never die. That'll never die. I don't believe it'll ever die, just because it's just the value of them are just going to skyrocket more and more and more. So
totally.
Which that's probably the good positive thing out of all this with going electric. It's only going to increase the value of that industry over here. So which is nice. Have you noticed with the electric vehicles coming out, the price difference? Buying. If I roll up in your dealership and I see the Ford Lightning half-ton F-150 or gas-powered F-150, I guess I'm asking because I don't know. I've never priced them out. But are they comparable, or is one like you're going to spend way more money for electric, or is it way more expensive for the gas, or are they comparable, or do you see the electric industry being less expensive because there's less parts? I guess I should say there's less into it, or how does that all work?
If you're able to find a Lightning available for sale, the MSRP of one is very comparable to a gas. As far as that goes, very comparable. If dealers have them available for sale, there's a huge premium on the market adjustment dealer markup, if you will, because there's just so few available. But if you ordered one, the price would be very similar to what a gas engine one would be.
So it's not really shocking either which way. You're not going to invest way more.
And I think that'll get better over time.
Yeah, I think that was Ford's goal too.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to find that, I think, in most of the dealerships across the board, because again, everybody has to be competitive.
Yeah.
To where if like Chevy or Ford, and I say that because that's the country we live up here. We're not in Tesla country up here 100%. We are a little bit, but not like Ford, Chevy, Mopar, to where they have to be comparable, because again, just like anything else, like it's the industry that we live in, So you think that EVs are going to be comparable to the gas just to keep people interested in what they're purchasing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that they stated too with the investment they want us to make. They want us to sell those for one price, if you will, like at MSRP or whatever that price point is. And part of that is they want the customer's experience to be at a high level. I mean, they're really thinking about this thing all the way around. And then the way we get paid, we kind of get paid a back-end commission by Ford, if you will, based on our customer satisfaction and meeting certain standards and things like that.
You don't get it directly from dealer markup. You get it,
Right.
So that's smart, actually. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So, we talk a lot about Fords. And I know that's not, like, you dabble in other dealerships. So you got Ford, Kia, you have Chrysler.
Yep. We have 2 Ford dealerships here, obviously Bismarck, Mandan, and then we have the Kia. We have Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram here, and then we have 2 Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealerships in Minnesota.
So are you feeling, is Chrysler, Mopar, are they, you said you were at a Ford convention. Do you feel the same wrath, positive or however, but from the Chrysler, Mopar? I mean, are they stepping up, and are you seeing like seems like they're on the same playing field as Ford, or do you see Ford's like going this direction and Mopar's kind of like back here a little bit, but they're catching up? Or I mean, do you see the same?
I do. A lot of people don't know this, but they combined with a European manufacturer maybe 2 years ago now, and they called Peugeot. Mm-hmm. And Peugeot has a lot of electric technology. That was the big reason why they merged with them, and they formed a new parent company called Stellantis. So at our dealer meeting this last March at our national convention, they rolled out a plan. I can't remember if it was 24 or 25, but every Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram vehicle might be 2024 model year will have a electric vehicle variant. So you'll have a Ram 1500 electric out there. You'll have a Grand Cherokee's coming now. That's here now. Mm-hmm. But as you saw, Charger, Challenger, but everything is going to. Now I don't know on the heavies. The heavy duty ones may not, but every other one is going to have electric. So they want us to invest heavily in it too. They don't have as defined of a plan on that yet. They're actually having us work with consultants to see what our investment might be needed, but it's going to, the one here is going to be significant.
Mm-hmm. So they're right up there with it. I mean, they are comparable.
I'd say Ford has outwardly made more of a, in terms of what the public can see, more of a investment in it, but Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram is doing the same thing, and like I said, all manufacturers are really have a lot of resources invested into this.
So this is what I remember I was going to ask you. So we're sitting here talking EVs, gas, comparable, and I feel like we live in diesel country up here. There's a lot of diesel trucks, farmers, ranchers, rig hands, just guys that love diesels.
Well, they get the job done, they're needed,
Where are we at there? I mean, is Ford like, hey, can we build electric 3/4 ton, 1 ton, dually, 450, 550, whatever? Can we build electric comparable, or are we over here putting all our R&D and making a better diesel? Where are we at there? Because it's got to be coming up. If you're building half tons, look at how many 3/4, 1 ton heavy duties are out there. They have to be working on something. Where are we at in that playing field?
Well,
do you know?
So I don't know.
Give us a little insight, or
I don't know the answer to that. But what I can tell you is that a diesel F350 or F250 is the most profitable vehicle Ford sells. Profitable for Ford, that means. Mm-hmm. So they made a lot of money when they sold it to me, the dealer. Mm-hmm. And they're very, very hard to get. I mean, if you wanted to buy one today, you'd either pay $10,000 over MSRP, or you would order one and maybe it's here in 6 months.
Yeah,
because there's such a backlog of orders. So I guess my opinion is I don't see that going away, but I also probably see the R&D people that they have invested in, which is a lot of them, probably trying to
they may have a little team
find a way to do that
Yeah.
with electric. You know,
Because I think because they know that they have to step up their game. They can't build electric half ton like they do a 3/4 and 1 ton. Because the reason why you have that truck is you're pulling, you're using it. It's a tool. Not for everybody, but for the most part.
But the commercial side, like semis, they've been dabbling into getting fully electric semis. So it's just like if they can scale that down, it's like it ain't out of the picture.
No, it's not. Yeah. I think the biggest thing of it is how to accommodate, because how many ranchers, farmers, even commercial people, well, if they're buying fleets of diesel or 3/4 to 1 ton or, like I said, heavy duties, however, I mean, that comes with a whole expense of, not every farmer or rancher lives close enough to town where they can bring it in every 3 days to charge it or whatever, so
they'll have to invest in that themselves.
Like that's enough. Where if you're buying a half ton or a car, well, you're probably driving to town with that or doing stuff. Well, you can charge it however, or a lot of people are buying in town. But a lot of these guys, they live out on farms and ranches, so that's another investment that they have to look into. But they're using that, like you said, they're going to be using that truck when it's 30 below, 20 below.
Yeah, there's kind of two dynamics to that I see. So two reasons why people use diesels is for, they run them hard for extended times, and they got power, they got torque. Well, on the electric side, the torque's there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They could use it for, a workhorse from the pulling side, but, to go have that thing as a welding rig, running, 20 blowout on a pipeline job, probably not a good vehicle for it,
Right.
So it's like they got to kind of maybe find a happy medium.
Yeah, the power in electric, people don't realize this. The power is there. Power and torque are insane. It is the battery.
Yep.
So that's what they'll have to, and I'm sure that's what they'll have to figure out. Mm-hmm. Certainly with a truck like that, a commercial use vehicle.
And I think like you were saying, like it's coming. I mean, they're going to do it, but I think that's probably going to be one of the last ones that they probably perfect, because there's going to be so much more R&D to go into it. Because, like I said, a large number of the people that have them are using them as tools. Like they're a work rig. They're not just your street truck.
It's like with a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are definitely capable, but is it marketable? You got to look at it from all angles. So it's like, I'm sure they could make, they'd have $225,000 into this 3/4 ton truck. Yeah, I'm sure they can do it. Mm-hmm. But are they going to be able to sell that truck? No. So now they're trying to find a good way to do it.
I think that's an example of where the manufacturers are going to have gas engine or diesel engine vehicles well into the future, and it's going to be a part of their portfolio. Mm-hmm. It's just the electric part is going to grow over time, but that's you're not going to be able to replace that anytime soon.
No.
I mean, we're 20 years away from
making
that.
Money on it either.
Yeah. My thing is I sit here and I wonder, like, what 10 years from now or 5 years from now, what's the trade-in going to be like on electric to, when somebody trades an electric vehicle, how do you look at it and be like, well, I don't know, just look at the motor and battery and everything else, like where you look at them.
I'm sure they can.
Diesel. I mean,
they can test the battery life, and stuff like that.
What the trade-in value is going to be like on electric vehicles come future, it's going to be a whole different ball game.
Well, I hadn't thought of that, but my hope is, maybe it'll make it easier for us, and if that's the case, that's better for the customer too.
Yeah, so they are a simpler vehicle. Mm-hmm.
So I think that would, that's going to be something that again you're going to adapt to, and it's going to be a whole different era to get into. Is trade in for electric, and everything else. Which
and like, how is that going to lead into what we do? How are people say 30% of the vehicles that are on the road are electric? So when people come to us and they want to make their vehicle different than that other electric vehicle they see on the road, like, well, can we go in there and increase the output of the batteries here, or can we do some driveline tricks to make them? It's like, I don't know how you can make them faster. They already haul ass.
I think it's going to be a lot of just cosmetic, because you can't. You're kind of limited when it comes to stuff like that.
There's got to be a way.
Like you said, just anything else, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's common.
the aftermarket world will have to figure it out, because for them to stay in business and to make, they're going to find ways to, like, well, we can sell this little trinket or sell this thing or this thing and this thing, and to keep that ball rolling.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know this. The aftermarket industry is massive. People don't realize how big it is.
Oh, it's huge.
And how into customizing their vehicles people are. So we're all going to have to find new ways to make it work. And I'm pretty confident that all of us, me and you, are going to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, and just like anything, you know, I've said this 100 times too. School's never over.
Right.
And, you know, you're always learning every
that's the
day,
fun part.
you know, and if you think it is, it's not. It's never over. Jesse, hey man, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad that you came on our show today and was willing to visit with us. I'm hoping we got to answer some questions that maybe our listeners were probably thinking of. Yeah, I think we covered a good.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Good broad of the basic good questions. I think that a lot of people were just ever thinking about.
People are asking them. I'm hearing it a lot at our dealerships. So yeah.
And I even in our industry too, you know, people always wonder, like, well, what's the EV going to do to your company, or you know. So I think people are always asking that question. So I'm glad that you were able to come on and answer some of our questions. I do want to say that in the future, I want our listeners to keep listening. That with talking about EV vehicles, my goal is to. I want to get somebody who is very knowledgeable on the electric, our world right now with electricity, and how we're adjusting to all the new EVs coming out, and the changes and the costs and everything. So I'm going to line that up. I don't know what episode it's going to be, but I do want to do that, and so that people can get not only from your point of view on selling electric vehicles, but what our world is going through and have to do to adjust to all electric vehicles. Because there's two different spectrums here, and I'm curious, and my mind goes, and we just get people on our show and ask them questions. So stay tuned for that. Also, if you have any concerns or questions or anything that you want us to talk about, feel free on our posts that we do on our Facebook, on our podcast. Do a comment, leave a comment. If you have something to say, questions to ask, anything you want to talk about, we'll answer your questions. We'll talk about some stuff. So don't be afraid to go on our Facebook and leave those comments. Also check out our Facebook or our website, dakotacustoms.com, and that's with a K and Z. If there's anything on there, you can also comment, check out our podcast, check out some of our pictures and our builds that we're doing.
Or like always, just stop by.
Or stop by the shop. So if there's any more questions or anything on this episode, feel free to stop in or comment, and we will, like I said, we'll feel free to answer them. Again, Jesse, thanks. Glad that you were able to come and visit with us. So till next time, we'll see you.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Unriveted Radio. Also available on demand with the SuperTalk 1270 mobile app. Download in the App Store or Google Play today. Unriveted Radio, presented by Dakota Customs, a full-service custom garage on the Strip in Mandan.
This program has been paid for